Hello everyone, we are at the point of types of programming language in the previous video. We had already mentioned that the computer understands only binary language that is written using the 0 and 1. But we use the high level programming language that is similar to the English. Now let's start the class from that point. Now we deal with the high level programming language but the computer understand only machine level language. There seems a communications gap because our language do not understand computer directly and the we cannot write the machine's code instructions directly today because we are familiar with the high level programming language. Now to resolve this problem a concept is introduced. This is called the translating software. Translating software, high level, the machine language. We deal with the high level programming language, computer understand the machine language. Now, there is a software we introduced called the translator. The main function of this is also the software. The main function of the translator is to take the code or instruction written or program written in the high level programming language from we and translate into the machine code that is understandable by the computer. Now, these are this is called the translating software. There are three common translating software which is called the compiler, interpreter and the assembler. There are three main common types of translating software that are the assembler, interpreter and compiler. Assembler just translate assembly language into the machine code. Assembly language that is written using the mnemonics that is one level higher than the machine code. This is still difficult to write in the assembly programming language. For example, it uses certain word which is called the command operand. Now this is called the assembly. Assembler just translate the assembly programming language into the machine code. Now we need to deal with the compiler and interpreter. Our main focus will be on the compiler and interpreter. What is the compiler and interpreter? Compiler and interpreter both perform the same task. That takes the program written in the high level programming language and convert it into the machine language. But their working nature is different. They perform the same task differently. Now let's see compiler, interpreter. Suppose this is our program file which contain the 5 line of code. 5 line of code means 5 instructions which contain the 5 instructions. Now what does compiler do? Compiler takes whole file at once, compile it and translate it into the machine code, and this is called the object file. The translated machine code is called the object file, and the object file will execute. Execute means computer understand and perform the task according to the instructions. Now compiler take whole file at once and translate it. Now interpreter take each line of instruction at once, one by one. Interpreter take this line of code and convert it into machine code, and after completing this take second line of code, convert it into machine level language and so on. Now it takes each line of code one over, it take whole file at once. Now compiler, the instruction will be executed as soon after the after compiler translate whole program into the machine code, and after translating it, the executions will start. But interpreter in interpreter, the translations and the executions of the code goes simultaneously at once. That means it translate first line of code and execute it, second line of code execute it. It do not wait all line of code to be converted into the machine level language. Now the interpreter is fast compared to the compiler for a single operations. Now compiler take whole file and it scans, it find a box, and it will be busy for to convert it into the machine level language. But the interpreter takes single line of code and translate it into machine level language. It translates single line of code so that it is fast. It translates whole code so that it takes time. So now for that case only interpreter is fast. But if we compare the whole program, then at that case compiler is faster than interpreter. Now error detection. Compiler, if compiler find the error in the program, then it stops the executions. The code will not be executed. Now for the in another case, for the interpreter, if interpreter find the error, then it will go on and execute the next line of code. Now compiler takes whole program at once and gives all error at once. Now interpreter scans each line of code, and if there is an error, give error one by one. These are the difference between the compiler and interpreter. There is a number of types of compiler and interpreter based on their working nature. Now let's discuss the types of compiler first. We'll discuss some basic types of compiler. First one is cross compiler. Suppose we have a two computer. One computer have a specific CPU, specific hardware, and another computer contain the another type of hardware CPU. If we write the program for one computer A, let's say computer A, and then the cross compiler take that code and convert it into the high level language that is compatible to the second computer. This is called the cross compiler. Native compiler. Native means indigenous. If a compiler need to translate a software written in the C programming language, and if the compiler itself is built up using the C programming language, then it is called the native programming language. And another is a decompiler. What does the decompiler mean? The reverse operations of the compiler is called the decompiler. For example, a compiler translates the high level program written in the high level programming language into the object code. Object code is a language written in a machine using the machine code, object code. Then the decompiler do the reverse process of compiler. That means decompiler take the machine codes and convert it into the high level programming language. This is called the decompiler. And another is source to source compiler. Source to source compiler. We know that there exist a numbers of high level programming language, for example Java, C++, C#, etc. Now source to source compiler takes program written in one programming language and convert it into the program of written using the another programming language. Now take one programming language and translate into the another programming language. This is called the source to source compiler. For example, a program written in, suppose a compiler takes a program written in the C#, and if it gives the output the program that is written using Java, then it is called the source to source program, source to source compiler. Now there exists a number of type of interpreter also. that are bytecode interpreter, thread code interpreter, and abstract syntax tree, etc. We don't need to elaborate this. We just need to understand what is the compiler and what are the interpreter based on the according to the syllabus of the class 11. We are discussing the syllabus of class 11. Now let's go to the another topic, error. 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 What is the error? First of all, we need to understand what is the error. Error means something wrong. If we are expecting something and if we execute something, there seems a difference between the obtained thing and the expected thing. This is called the error. Now error means the code do not working properly. We are trying to write A and we obtained B. That means this is a error. This is not, we are not getting the same as we expect. This is called the error. Now in the programming language, while writing the program, we face different type of error, that are syntax error, semantic error, syntax error and semantic error. The most common type of error in the computer are syntax error and semantics error. What is the syntax error? We have discussed the grammar. Programming language. Language use the allowed vocabulary and use a specific grammar. The grammar of the computer is called the syntax. How to write the command in the programming language is called the syntax. How to arrange the code, how to write the command. We need to follow a specific rule to write the command or program, which is called the syntax. If we do not follow the proper rule, then it is called the syntax error. Syntax error means grammatical error in the computer. It's called the syntax error. Suppose we need to write print f hello. Yes, this is the correct way of writing the hello world in the screen using the C programming language. And if we miss f, print f, or if we do not give this quotations mark and gives only on the right hand side, then this is the error. We missed it. We violated the rule. That means this is the syntax error. And semantic error. Semantic means the meaning. We wrote the same. We wrote the correct sentence, correct command, but this gives the false meaning. That means semantic error. We wanted to say some things and the computer understood something. Then this is called the semantic error. Suppose A is equal to 5, B is equal to 2. And suppose we want to write the program to perform the additions of these two variables, A plus B. We wrote A plus B. This is right. This is synthetically right. Suppose we wrote A minus B. We wanted to perform additions of A and B, but we wrote by mistakenly A minus B. This is syntactically good, syntactically right, but semantically error. This do not give the meaning what we wanted to say. We wanted to achieve the additions of this and our output would be 7 in this case, but we would obtain 3. This is called the semantic error. Means also we can call logical error. This is the most common type of error in the programming language. Now compiler only detect this syntax error. Semantic error compiler do not understand, do not detect semantic errors. Compiler only understands syntactic error if compiler find any syntactical error in any instructions while converting it into the machine's code, then it stop converting and display the error, and program will not execute, program will be terminated. These are the most common type of error: compiling error and runtime error. Compiling time error, we can categorize error based on when the error comes. That means compile time error. Another is runtime error. Now when the compiler takes the program file and while converting it into the object code, if compiler finds some error, then it is called the compile time error. If compiler finds the error, then it will not execute the code and it display the error message. Now this is the compile time error. In this error, the machine code will not form, object code will not form, because the compiler display the error. And runtime error, if compile time error detects syntactical error, because there is a grammatically instructions are fine or not, these types of error compiler can detect while compiling time. Now runtime error, another one is runtime error. A compiler compile the source code, convert it into the object code and execute the object code. Now while executing this object code, if the computer find the error, then it is called the runtime error. Runtime error means compile time error means the error found in the while compiling, while converting the high level program language into the low level program language. But runtime error is there is no compiling error, compiling is fine, we successfully obtain the object code, but while executing the object code we get the error. That means runtime, while running the program we achieve the error, so that it is called runtime error. For example, suppose a is equal to 5, b is equal to 0, a divided by b. Suppose while executing the program, if we find a divided by, this is syntactically right, so that compiling error do not seem here. And if we divide 5 by 0, that is impossible. This is the indeterminate form. This we cannot determine the solution of it. Zero 5 0 by 5 by 0 5 0. Yeah, because we cannot divide 0 to any number, 5 to any number. Now this is the indeterminate form. There are lots of indeterminate forms whose solutions do not exist in the mathematics. If we encounter such types of error, this is called the runtime error. Now we have already studied the error and what is the compiler, what is the high level language, what is low level language, what is the machine language. Now we'll start data type and variable. We are not entering, where we have it not entered into the programming language. We are just describing the basic things that are needed to write the program, to understand the program. Now let's understand what is the data type. Data type, DAT, data type. Data type by name, it means data type, data raw material, some things, for example name, values, quantity, etc. Which when processed it become informations, the raw things which is represented by data. And type, what does the type means? Type means its character. Character type means character of the data, how many memory it consume, and what type of values data can hold. This is called the data type. Data type. There are numbers of data types in the computer programming language, C programming language. Now, first one is int. Int. Its full form is integer. 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 Int is one of the mostly used data type in this computer programming language, that is represented by %d or %i. Now, it takes maximum 4 byte, otherwise 2 byte. 2 byte. 2 byte means 8 bit. 8 bit means 2 byte. Minimum 2 byte, maximum 4 byte. 4 byte means 4 into 8, 32 bit. So that it can hold 2 to the power minus 32 to 2 to the power 32 data. It can hold this range of data. This can store both positive and negative values. Unsigned. This is unsigned. There are two types of data types. For example, int. Int could be two types: unsigned and signed. Unsigned only hold the positive data, and signed means that can hold both positive and negative values. Now, this is the signed value. Signed means -5. This could be also the int. This represents the int, integer type. Integer means it do not contain the fractional part. Only integer, whole number. It do not contain fraction. 5.5. This is not an integer. Only 5 is integer. 5, 10, 100, 500. These are the integer number, which do not contain the fractional part, which can be represented using %d or %i. It can hold 2 byte to 4 byte. Now, float. F-L-O-A-T. Float. Float hold 4 byte. 4 byte of memory. Now, it can be represented by %f. We need to remember this representations because we need to use these symbols while studying the programming language or while using the programming language to write the program. Now, float is another data type. Int, integer do not contain fractional part, float contain the fractional part. For example, 4.4. This is a float number. 5.5. This is a float number. And minus. We can also use minus number. Minus data. Float can also use the minus data because this is the signed. Float can also hold the integer number, but integer cannot hold the float number. That means in the integer data type cannot hold 4.4, but float can hold 5, 10, 100, 500, etc. because float store 5 in the format of the 5.5 and so on. Now, double. There is another double. Double is another data type which is represented by %long float. Its capacity is larger than this float. This is also the float, but it can store large value. And there is a long int, long int, long int, long float, unsigned integer, unsigned float, character. Another important variable is character. C as a character, percent %c takes 1 byte. This is one of the most important data type in the C program language. The most important data type are the character, float, and integers. The others we can also use according to our requirement. Now, variable. Let's study the variable. We have studied the data type. Data type tell the type of which type of data we are using. For example, either it is integer or float or character. Character, what is the character? A string. String sequence of the character is called the string. Suppose A, B, C, 4 could be also a character. We represent character by using this single quotations. We write the character inside the single quotations mark. And sequence of character is called string. Percent yes is used to represent the string. RAM. We use double quotation mark to represent the string. This is the string. And this is the integer because do not contain the fractional part. This is the float because this contains the fractional part. The most common type of the data type in the C program language: integer, float, percent %c character, and strings. And long integer, long float, double, etc. are the higher capacity version of the integers, float. Also, we can use this according to our requirement, but the most common things data types are integer, float, which represent how many space it takes in the memory and what types of data. For example, integer, float, character, what type of data is stored. Now, these are called the data type variable. Let's study variable. Variable and data types are the most important things before beginning the programming language. We need to understand the variable and the data type because these are the very much important things to write the program. We have already discussed the data type and types of data type. For example, integer, float, character, string, double, etc. Now it's turn to study variable. Now, variable. What is the variable? Variable is just something name that stores data. Yes, variable is something, some name of the memory. We name the memory. We give the name of the memory by the certain letter or certain word. These are called variable. Variable store the data of certain type. Syntax: int a equal to int a equal to 5. We can write in this way. That means int data type. Data type we can also write type in short form. type. Type. Data type can be also written by type in short form. Type and the name of the variable we write, and we assign value to the variable according to the which value we can store in this variable. For example, if we write int a, that means only integer value are allowed to store in variable again. That means we cannot store character, floating point, data here in the a. So that we can only store 5. We cannot store 5.5 here. That means if we cannot use 5.5, we are allowed to use only 5 here in variable a because its type is integer. Now, later in the program, we can use a instead of 5. That means 5 represent a. Now, how does it processed in the computer? Suppose in a memory, 2 byte. It takes 2 byte it gives name A to the memory and store value 5 here. A reserve some memory, required memory to store the data of type integer in a memory, give it name A and store some value. Okay, preserve some value. This preserves one value, and if you write A equal to 5, that is 5 is assigned to A, that means here 5 is stored. In this way variable work. Now this is called the initialization of the variable. In the C programming language, we need to first determine the required variable. How many variables are required, what are these, and we need to write down it first before writing another code. We need to mention all of the variable before writing the another code in the C programming language. This is the feature of the C programming language. In the another programming language, for example C++, Java, etc., we can define the variable whenever we require it. But in the C programming language, we need to list out all of the variable before writing the program in the program at the top of the program. Now this is the type. For example, if we write float A, that means A reserve for white, it is initially, it do not contain any value, that is garbage value. Garbage value means which value we cannot determine, it can store a random value, that is error. Now float A, it reserves a certain space in the memory and it gives name A, and if we give 5.5, it store 5.5 in this memory location. Why 5.5? Because its character is float. We can store decimal number. We cannot write C here because this is the character. We cannot store character in the A because type of the this A is float. Now this is the data type. Data type variable. Data type and variable come together. Why? When we initialize the variable. Initialize means we write which type of variable we are going to use while writing the program. That means while initializing the program, data type and name of the variable comes together. That means what is the variable? Variable is a certain name of certain type that is used to store some value. In the mathematics, we say let x is equal to something value, let y is equal to something value. Yes, this x, y are called the variable in the computer programming language. Now there is certain rule to define the variable. There is a certain rule to define a variable. Now variable could be a sequence of alphanumeric character. Alphanumeric means combination of alphabet and number, and underscore are also allowed to use. For example, ram underscore 23. This is the valid variable. Yes, ram underscore 23. This is a variable. Now, but while writing the variable, number could not come in the beginning. 2 ram underscore 3. We cannot write in this way because we cannot write number ahead of the variable name. We are just allowed to use underscore or alphabet at the beginning of writing the variable. A variable name could be R only. Yes, we can also write the R. Single alphabet, or we can also use R, or we can also use A, B, and so on. Combinations of the alphabet only, combination of the alphabet and underscore, combination of the alphabet, underscore and number, but number could not come at the beginning of the variable name of the variable. This is the rule to define the variable. That means variable store the value. We need to define a variable. While initializing the variable, we need to define the name. We need to give the name of the variable along with its type. The type determines which type of value the variable can store. Defining the variable means we are preserving the space in the memory. Now this is the called the variable. There is a lots of type of variable. There is a types of variable, number of type of variable we need to use while writing the program, and the type of the variable are defined according to their scope. Scope. What does the scope means? Suppose the scopes of the Prime Minister of Nepal is within the boundary of the Nepal. The scope of the Balan Saha is its scope is within the Kathmandu metropolitan city, and the scope of United Nations is all over the world. That means scopes define where from it can be accessed, where from it can be accessed, where it can exercise the power in the real scenario means. That means the scope. Scope define the variable types. Global scope. Global. Global variable. Global variable. The variable which scopes remaining all over the program is called the global variable. That means suppose a is a global variable, and suppose a equal to 5. If we write a equal to 5, then if we access a from anywhere in the program, entire program, then we can access a. That means its scope is to the all over the program. That means it is global. This is called the global variable. And the another is local variable. Local variable. What is the local variable? The variable which is accessible to the certain area. There is entire large programs, but a variable that can be accessed within a certain area is called the certain area of the that large program. It's called the local variable. Local to that place. Only he is known to that place. He is local to the that place, not entire the program. This is called the local variable. If we define local variable a, and suppose a, if we assign 5 to the a is equal to 5, so let if and we can, if we print value of the a, then it will give 5 only within that boundary of its scope. This is called the local variable. And global variable which scope is entire the program, is in the entire of the program, and the variable which scope is within the certain areas, certain place of the entire program. It's called the local variable. And static variable. Static variable. To define a static variable, we just suppose INTA. To define a static variable, STIC, we just give static ahead of data type to define a static variable in a C programming language. Static means, suppose if we assign a is equal to 5, and while executing the program, suppose there is a numbers of code, and after a certain point, if we give a is equal to 6, then after that, after the control phase a is equal to 6, then a replace 5 by 6. That means another part of the program, if we access a, then it gives 6. That means static. Static means it store the change. It store the change. That means this is static. And another is register variable. Register. Register variable. What is the register variable? Where does the variable is preserve space? Where does the variable preserve space? Variable preserve space in the memory. Memory means main memory, RAM. But static variable store the preserve the space in the memory of the CPU. In CPU, not in the memory. It become the fast. Suppose a variable store its locations, preserve its locations in the CPU, then it is called the static variable. And another one is external variable. External variable, suppose there are the two file of the programs, and if the scopes of the variable remains on the both file, then it is called the scope external variable. Yes, there is how many types of local variable, global variable, static variable, external variable, register variable. Now today let's write the syntax of program, layout of the program, how to write the C program. We'll begin writing the program from header file. Has include has include now in this way we'll write the C program in this way. Has include std standard input output, has include conio.ins. These are called the header file. This contain the built-in functions in the library. These are the library file which contain the built-in function. We just need to use it while writing the program. We don't need to define. Preserve word, keyword or preserve word. Let me explain. I forgot to explain about the preserve word or keyword. A C program library contains a certain number, certain word, which I call the preserve word. Preserve means its meaning is already defined in the library, which is called the preserve word. Now, while define the variable name could not be the preserve word, and variable name could not also contain the special symbol. For example, at the red dot, at the red has, etc. So that the preserve word means it has a specific meaning which is already stored in the library of the program, C program. For example, int is also the preserve word because int denotes the integer number and int represent the integer number. It is already defined in the library. That means int is also the preserved word. Its definition is already given in the library. That is preserved word. Keyword. These preserved words are called the keyword because these keywords have certain meaning. Int, keyword. Int is also a keyword. Float is also a keyword. That means Punyo and stereo audio.ins are the library functions. We have the which have the pre-built functions which we use while writing the program. And this is the syntax of writing program. Now, C program is the collections of the functions, and this is called the main functions. Every program contains at least one function, which is called the main function. Main functions are only one function in any program. Only one main function should mentioned, and at least one functions. Any program contain at least one function, which is called the main functions. A program may contain the 2, 3, 4 functions, etc. This is called the functions. Functions means that perform a specific task. That means when how to write the functions, this is called the return type. Here we can write int also, float also. How to write this and what is its use will study later. Now void means not return type. This do not return the value. That means return means functions perform a specific task. Functions, this is called the functions body. The code inside this two bracket flowing the void main, it's called the functions body. Function body returns certain value. That means void. If we give the void, then this function, this is called the main function do not return any value. It only execute and be silent. do not give any value to others. Now how to write the syntax of writing the functions? Return type, syntax of writing function. Return type, name of function, bracket, argument. It can contain the argument we will study later. We just need to understand a single parenthesis. It is called the parenthesis. Return type, name of the functions and parenthesis. And void means no return type. No return type means these functions do not return anything. Now void mean. And our main code will go here. We need to write our code to write the program here. And gets. What does the get means? Gets takes the character from the keyboard. Now gets. If we write the GTC gets functions, then it holds the screen until we press some key from the keyboard. That means it allows us to see the output of this program, because output of this code will be displayed on the screen and the screen will be hold. It's going to be hold until we press a certain key. That means in this way we write the program. This is the syntax of writing the program. This is called the main functions. At least one functions. Every program must contain at least one functions, which is called the main functions. Every program must contain one functions, one main function. Every program may contain any number of functions of any names, but it must contain main function. Main function is the function which name is main. One. It must contain one main function. And it written that we write void because it do not need to return anything, because it is the main. Here everything operations will be here, so that it do not need to return any value, so that we wrote void here. Void main. These are the header file. We need to include header file before writing the program. And we after writing this, there could be another header file such as math.h, string.h, and so on, graphics.h, etc. But most common header file to start the C programming is studio.h and conio.h, and we will include this studio.h and conio.h header file using this syntax. Now main functions, we need to write void main function, and we need to give a bracket, and we need to write just before this in a bracket gets, because this word the screens to see the output, and we need to close this bracket. And this is the basic structure of the writing the C programming language. We write program according to our requirement here. Okay, we'll continue to writing the code from the next class. Thank you everyone for watching the video.